This is Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan, Rockefeller Center, New York City Newsstand Studios. Joined as usual with John sitting across me. How you doing, John?
Doing great.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
All
good.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Missed a couple of weeks there.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah. Got Joe rocking the panels. What's up?
Hey, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Doing well.
You guys are both kind of wearing very, orange and reddish. It kind of looks cool.
Yeah. I used to have this rule, like the worse I feel, the brighter the colors I would wear, so that people wouldn't look at me. Anyway, got over there on the West Coast in her new official homeland, Nastasia the Hammer Lopez.
Hi.
How you doing? Yeah, you no longer have ties to our coast at all.
No, I don't. I know.
You lit all that crap on fire. How did your well, we could talk about your garage sale later. Also over on that coast, we got Monsieur Le Molecules. Jack, how you doing?
Yo, I'm good. How are you?
Good. And holding down the upper left corner, Quinn. What's up?
Yep, as always.
Okay, good. And we do not have, unfortunately, our special guest for today, Osai Endelin. She's under the weather, so hopefully we'll reschedule and come back. And is it next week? Next week is our Thanksgiving week. So if any of you guys have any Thanksgiving questions and don't want to listen to our... Stas, how many back episodes do we have? 1 billion? Or it's like 5 billion?
Of Thanksgiving?
Or
So
like
many.
many. Yeah, Thanksgiving episodes, we've had probably 13 or 14. How long have we been doing this crap?
I believe it's 14 years.
14
Yeah,
years.
2020 was 10.
Oh my God, what a bad idea. Anyway, so if you don't feel like going back and listening to all 14 years of Thanksgivings, you can ask us your Thanksgiving emergency related things. But unless you're a Patreon listener, it's going to be too late because you won't be able to listen to it until Friday after Thanksgiving's already over. So, John, you want to tell them how they can become a member of Patreon?
Patreon.com/cooking issues. There's a couple different membership levels, perks with all the different levels, access to Patreon, discounts with Kitchen Arts and Letters and Grove and Vine and Glassfin and all these other great companies. So yeah, check it out, patreon.com/cooking issues.
Yeah. And if you are a Patreon listener, you can call in live to 917-410-1507. That's 917-410-1507. And then in this week before Thanksgiving, let me just say, even if you are a Patreon listener and you're listening and it's Tuesday next week, it is too late to start thawing your turkey. Let me just tell you this right now. It is too late, unless you're using a very tiny turkey or unless you really like fuddling around with a frozen turkey. How much do you hate futzing around with a frozen turkey, John?
I have managed to always plan accordingly, so I've never had to deal with it.
Yeah, you can force thaw a turkey in running water. It's not ideal. You know what I mean? And you can speed the thaw a little bit by putting into a brine, right? But classic first-time cooking Thanksgiving error is to buy a frozen turkey and then be like, it's going to thaw in like a couple of hours, like a chicken, right? Nope. Nope.
Well, actually, previous guest on the show, Chris Young, did make a video about how to cook from frozen and actually recommend it.
Yeah.
Interesting to check out.
I'm going to go ahead and say I don't believe that even for a second. I think maybe he can do it. I think it's going to cause lots of problems. Like, unless you have really good temperature control, I'm saying that the average person isn't going to go through the steps required to get the temperature control required to cook from frozen. And I'll also say this. Was back in the beginnings of low temperature cooking, there was a huge movement to sear meat from frozen and then cook it from frozen. The theory being that you could sear the outside of the meat quite a bit, right, without cooking the center at all. And then you would cook it through. However, after numerous side-by-side taste tests of both cooking styles, where it was frozen and where it wasn't frozen, every single person we gave it to was like, yeah, I kind of prefer the one that was done more traditionally. So I'm going to go ahead and say I don't believe it, but I'm willing to have a side-by-side. I'm willing to have the side-by-side if someone's going to cook for me. I'm not willing to do the side-by-side because I don't have the space for 2 turkeys. Or enough people to eat them all, but that's my theory on that. And by the way, theory born of lots of experimentation over many years. But okay, now what do you guys got going this week? Anything this week of past week? Stas, how'd your Nastasia sold all of her goods that she had in Stamford, or that she did the sale go well? Did people buy?
No, people came in, they wanted to take photos of the house, they wanted to take photos of the view. And then the sad part is that they look at your stuff and they're like judging your taste based on your stuff. And then you're like, I want $10 for this thing. And they're like, how about 50 cents? And it actually costs you like 100. So but you don't want to move it yourself. It's a sad process.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I don't think it's not your style of thing because you don't really like to. You're not really like someone who likes to talk to people you don't know or haggle with them, right?
Right.
I kind of wish I was there because if I had been there, I would have helped you out a little bit. Like you would have been holding this thing up.
Right.
They would have said, "Can I have this for 50 cents?" I just would have taken it from their hands and thrown it in the ocean.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know. And there was a lot of good stuff. I mean, not stuff that, it's like when we did our sale. Did we talk about this when we did our sale? No.
No. Did we mention it? I don't remember.
No, I
I
don't.
think we mentioned it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I hope
Well, the patrons
I hope the patrons that have formerly our stuff are enjoying the now their stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Yeah,
You don't want
that
things
was
to get
rough.
wasted.
That was rough.
Like in fact, I tend to buy things. Like sometimes I want things new because I don't trust what people have done to them, but I buy used most of the time stuff like equipment that like still has a lot of life in it because I feel bad like creating more garbage. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was the move otherwise? Okay.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. Just that.
Yeah. You have any sad and happy at the same time, right? You're like, crap on this coast. Boom. How big of a like a toot did you give? Did you like go in all the cushions that were left in your apartment and be like toot away and then leave? That's what that's the stuff. Yeah.
No, I did leave some.
Oh, mean or okay notes?
No, like warnings.
Yeah. Beware the landlord. Anyway, have you had any good food incidents over the past week? Well, I know my man Jack probably went to a decent restaurant. What's up?
I didn't, but I went to St. Augustine in Florida to see some family and had some really good blackened gator tail. So that's always nice.
Okay, a couple of questions here. I've never been to St. Augustine, but like, what portion of it is the oldest city? Is like one building left? Is there like one stone? Like what?
It's like a little historic tourist district with all the old buildings and stuff. It's it's a nice little area, but it's very like I don't know, like what you would imagine like the French or Spanish section of Epcot would look like. You know what I mean?
Oh. And what kind of tchotchkes do they sell there?
I mean, the standard stuff. Honestly, not a political show. A lot of MAGA stuff, though.
Yeah, well, Florida, hello. I used to love, first of all, I went through various stages of my life. When I was a kid, loved tchotchkes. Loved them. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, like, show me a kid that doesn't like a little garbage tchotchke to put in their room and throw away 20 years later. Find me a kid. You know what I mean? And then my parents would never buy that crap. That's what grandparents were for. They would buy you the stupid tchotchke, and you'd end up coming home with like they used to take animals and like when they were, I don't know whether they killed them or waited for, I guess they killed them, and then they would set them in resin. Have you seen these? Like turtles like set in resin?
Those are cool.
Yeah, pufferfish set in resin. Yeah. And I would show up at home with those. And my mom's like, what the hell? What are we going to do with this? I'm going to put it in my room. In 20 years, I can tell you not to throw it out. And then in 30 years, you can throw it out without telling me. That's basically life. Anyway, I went from that stage to liking to go to tchotchke shops to see the ridiculous things. So now I can't even walk into those places anymore. You know what I mean?
Anyway. Yeah. There was a woolly mammoth tusk on sale for $60,000.
And what was the provenance of said tusk? How can they like? Are you trusting some St. Augustine tchotchke dealer with freaking selling you a $60,000? And what is the market? What is the market for me being in a tourist trap, walking in and being like, you know what? That sold.
Yeah,
sold.
Yeah, YOLO, I'm grabbing it. No, I know. I agree. It was
Did you buy it and then you can microplane it over risotto as as a supplement? I mean, that would be the money, right? Anyway. I used to, when I was a kid, before I knew it was a terrible idea, used to buy ivory quite a bit. Like, not fresh ivory, please. No calls. You know what I mean? I used to do scrimshaw as a kid. And ivory dust smells kind of like burning hair. It's not the best for your lungs. Anyway, that was a weird tangent. What about Quinn or John? What do you guys got?
I got something.
Oh, okay. What do you got?
We broke down a duck this weekend, so we did duck wings, seared duck breast with a chanterelle crispy clay pot rice, and I did a duck leg adobo, like Filipino style. Pretty good.
Now, what kind of clay pot do you have?
My dad buys whatever's on Facebook Marketplace.
I don't know what that means. Like, are we talking like a Chinese clay pot? Are we talking like a Colombian clay pot? Are we talking?
Like that. Yeah, it looks like a Chinese style. Yeah.
I've recently. So it's what's interesting about you're familiar with high fire versus low fire ceramics. So
I mean, sure.
Yeah, right. And glaze versus not. So I recently, one of the issues with a lot of the higher fire ceramics, actually, even though they're all oven proof and a lot of them are non-porous because they're fully vitrified and a lot of them are glazed. So for instance, my bean pot, right? If something says it's stoneware, right, or ironware, those are high fired, right? And they're typically harder. They're less liable to chip, typically less porous. But in general, you don't put them over direct flame, right? Whereas some of the lower fired pots can be put over direct flame. And so I picked up, guys ever cooked one of these La Chamba pots? You familiar?
No.
So in Colombia, they have a micaceous clay near this village, and the village, I believe, is called La Chamba. And it's kind of like, you can only call it La Chamba if it's from there, and the clay deposits that are near this river are owned by the town. So only townsfolk can make it, right? You can't have like an outside person come in, buy all the clay, and manufacture it in New Jersey and sell it as La Chamba. It all comes from La Chamba. None of it's thrown on a wheel. It's all molded. But it goes through this, and everyone has their own job. You know what I mean? Like, I make the pot blanks. I do the handles. It's kind of one of those things. But what they do after they rough form the pot is one of the person's jobs is to sit there with a smooth agate stone that looks like like you've rock tumbled it, and sit there and hand polish the leather hard implement until it's fundamentally glossy. And then it's low fired. But because they rub it so much, it doesn't absorb a lot of liquid. It absorbs some liquid, but not a lot. So it's kind of in between being porous and not porous. But what's cool is you can put it directly on a fire. And they low fire them in these like kind of big, like kind of outside kilns. And then after they're fired at a relatively low temperature, about 750 Celsius, for those of you that are ceramic heads, that's very low, they then cover it so that oxygen can't get to it anymore, smoke it out, and it comes out black. So it looks really cool. And in fact, Rancho Gordo, Steve Sando, who's coming on in a couple of weeks, he is a big fan of La Chamba pots, especially for bean cooking. So maybe we can talk more about La Chamba. So guys, get your La Chamba questions in. The only La Chamba I have right now, I saw it when I was in Colombia, when I used to go to Colombia, but the only one I have is a almost 4 quart bean pot, so it can hold almost 2 quarts, 2 pounds of beans. For those of you that don't know, it's about 2 quarts to hold a pound of beans once they're cooked in a bean pot. For those of you that are, I don't know, looking up bean pots, everyone should own a bean pot. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say that everyone should.
My dad just texted me. It's actually a Japanese style clay pot, Donabe, apparently.
Oh, nice. I mean, some of the
images. He's bought. Sorry, it's a funny story. He's bought 2 separate clay pots from Facebook. They were listed like weeks apart, but it's the same lady, and we suspect that she somehow has hundreds of these, she's just like
you should just ask.
Slowly doling them out.
You should just ask. Like that's when someone has more than one thing, I'm like, how many you got? You got the one I want?
Yeah, but she wouldn't let them inside.
You don't have to let it inside. You can say, I'm looking for this. Do you have it? You know what I mean? If you're looking for something different from what you already have. They make really big La Chamba pots. They make like La Chamba griddles, like komals. I'm kind of interested in the idea of like a clay komal, but where would I use it? Nowhere. Nowhere. You know where I can have big wood fires these days? Oh wait, nowhere, because I don't have an outside anymore. Joy.
You and me both.
You live in LA, you could pick wherever you want.
No, it's not. Like Jack and I don't have backyards.
What? What about all these things? Every time I visited you have an outdoor space that you can F with.
That's because you and I rent places that are like really nice.
I see.
Those are Airbnbs.
Are you renting a lean-to? Like people you live in a house, or you live in an apartment? Or do you live in an apartment that's part of a house?
It's like a little, yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's like a little.
I mean, I could always.
Wait, what? Well, give me the scenario. How tall is your building? How many floors?
It's like little bungalows.
Okay, well, you have a door to the outside then, do you not? Yeah. All right. You got an outside. All right. Yeah. Find me someone in New York who has a door that opens to the outside, and I'll show you a rich person. You know what I mean? Like, we have doors that open onto hallways. That's how we roll. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Yeah.
You're familiar. You lived here for a long time. Anyway. Imagine, I used to grill in my hallway. Let me just put it to you this way. Like, back when I lived in my illegal loft on 38th Street, like, we had a fire stairwell that was internal to the building. And I used to go out there and grill, and it was fundamentally, it was kind of outside, but it was like a fire stairwell. So it was like kind of in the hallway until I accidentally set off the fire alarm. And the fire department had to run up 20 flights of stairs because they didn't want to take the elevator because they thought there might be a fire. And they weren't happy with me, like, at all. I had a big grill, too. I wasn't talking like you know those little Smoky Joes, those little miniature grills that everyone gets in New York to try to get away with grilling on their fireplace? No, this was a giant charbroiler, like, could hold, like, 30 pounds of charcoal. It was like, I was real grilling. Anyway. And they didn't get me in too much trouble because when they asked me, I think I said this on the air several times, but they said, what the hell are you doing? You can't do that. And I go, tastes better. And then they left. That's all that happened to me. Weird. I mean, it was, a long time ago. Pre 9/11. Okay. What about you, John? You haven't weighed in.
I was, air quote, lucky enough to have Saturday off. We had to close the restaurant because there were some issues happening with the building.
You want to say what they are? Were, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's an old building. There have been plumbing issues. There were no backups or things like that, but just unpleasant odors. And just, like, didn't nice. Smell good.
Someone was pooping through the ceiling.
Yeah, no, it's way worse than that.
How could it be worse than pooping through the ceiling?
We'll get into later.
Now you have everyone's brain turning, trying to figure out what could be worse than somebody pooping through the ceiling.
The point where all the sewage pipes from the building flow into the city's pipes are broken and not working the way they ought to be.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, whatever. Had Saturday night off. Went to Demo and had an extra-aged pork chop, which more restaurants need to be doing because a good pork chop is absolutely delicious and so hard to find.
How do you like the inside? Rosy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How offended are you by a little bit of extra pinkness around the bone when it goes rosy? Or do you think they should hit a little more on the bone so that it doesn't get that little thing near the bone? Like a little more fire right on the other side of the bone cooks through wind.
I guess that'd be nice, but I won't nitpick.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people freak the hell out.
Yeah, no, I know. People get...
Oh, they really do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's not cooked. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. you know what I mean? Is it cooked? Am I going to get sick? You are going to get sick, and you're going to die, most likely, unless you get hit by a bus.
Exactly.
At some point in your life.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then went to Contra.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep. Got the champagne boat.
Okay, so that's one thing we have in the last week. Shot boat is on the menu. So like years in the making. So like at existing conditions, I was like, you know what? Everybody loves like a cheesy sushi boat. Like aside from the quality of the sushi, as long as the quality of the sushi is okay, you like it when it comes on like a big wooden boat because. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, So I'm like, hey, what if you did a sushi boat, but with liquor, with shots, shot boat? So then I bought a boat. I made a deck. I made 3 decks, actually, that held shot glasses. It turned out that we don't end up using them. It's better just to bury the shot glasses in ice. So and for some reason, we can never get it to work at XCon. I'm not going to go into the politics of how XCon worked, but we can never get it to work at XCon. So at Contra, I'm like, we're going to do the boat. So I rescued the boat out of storage before we divested ourselves of everything that we owned. And now we're doing it. And the gimmick is that we line up 16 shot glasses, right? And into those 16 shot glasses, we pour, 2 lines of 7 and then 2 in the middle. We pour an entire bottle of champagne. Real champagne styles, by the way. Not no sparkling wine. Real champagne. And
also, I went to your bar too. That's what my food thing is.
You went? Oh, yeah, but I was there. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, but you probably won't talk about it because you're with people you won't talk about. We were there with Ariel. Ariel, you'll talk about. Yeah. Nastasia brings something and goes, don't talk about it. So then after we empty the bottle of champagne into the shot glasses, and we were testing some of the stuff when you were there, we then put a bunch of cordials into it. So for about 55 mils of champagne, we put 6.6 mils of 50 bricks, 2% acid. All the cordials for this are 50 bricks, so 50% sugar by weight, and 2% acid. You don't want 6 because it's too sour for the champagne. Champagne already brings its own acidity with it. So you fundamentally want this cordial to be slightly acidic, but not very much. So, and it's rainbow, Roy G. Biv. So the red is strawberry. The O is orange is passion fruit. The yellow is saffron honey. The G is kiwi green. B is orange because orange curacao. It's blue, so we do a reduced orange cordial. The indigo is some sort of shiso one, which is the only one I haven't actually tried because I was in Barcelona during the development of that one. And the last one's Concord grape, everyone's favorite Concord grape, and then 2 plains so you can taste the champagne on its own. A bargain at any price. So, and then we're numbering them. So, John got shot boat number 2. Yeah, I don't know what we're up to now. Yeah. But so we give you the menu, we write your number on it, just like La Tour d'Argent, which I've never been to and probably will never go to. But when you get a pressed duck at La Tour d'Argent, which I guess means the Silver Tower, or Money Tower, Silver Tower.
Either, I guess. But yeah, probably the Silver Tower, if I had to guess.
Yeah, but if you were going to go to an American, like an English-named restaurant, would you rather go to Money Tower or would you rather go to Silver Tower?
Silver Tower.
Really?
I think so.
I don't know, Money Tower.
Yeah.
Anyway, when you get a pressed duck there, they number it and they give you a certificate. So we're stealing that idea from them.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. Oh, and the other thing I did this week was I was in Barcelona hanging out with Harold McGee and Tracy Chang from Pagu in Boston. We went to a bunch of good restaurants, but I'll say this. I ate so much ham. I ate an unconscionably large amount of bellota-fed jamón ibérico. So, for those of you that, aren't hip to ham or whatever, like there's various grades, but the highest grades of Spanish ham are made from 100% Iberico pigs, the Pata Negra, right? So that's the breed, which are known for producing great hams. Not very good mothers. So I was at a farm actually near Manresa, and they were breeding 50% Duroc, which is, a breed that's common here in America, with 50% Iberico pigs. And they said that you get a lot more yield, like bigger litters, and like they're better mothers. So it's better they're better producers, like the Duroc Iberico splits, which led me to believe, hey, maybe you could do IVF for pigs. They do IVF for cows, and they're working on IVF for pigs. But why not do IVF with 100% Pata Negra stock into something like a Duroc, a very good mother, so that you could get much larger litters that were easier to wean because you have the genetics of the good mothering on the one. Then you could jack the production of Pata Negra hams. But then above just the style of, the genetics of the pig, you have the feeding regimen. So the highest level is called bellota, where they're fed on a farm for, most of their life. And then for the last, I forget however many months, they're turned loose and they eat acorns. And by the way, I picked up an acorn off the ground where I was, even though it's not the same area. And it's the best tasting acorn I've ever picked up off the ground and eaten. And I've done that multiple times. It was the least astringent of all the acorns. Anyway, So whenever there was a lull, I would slink off by myself to buy ham. I bought ham in the airport. I bought ham everywhere I could. I would go buy ham. I'll say this. You know how when you go to a Spanish place, they have first of all, they don't slice it the way that we slice it here. Typically, they're slicing it long ways. The ham is held like almost like you would cradle a baby, and then you'd slice it, not like, obviously the baby analogy stops, but like you slice it along the grain to make these pieces, and they can choose different parts of the ham. Now, most places don't have infinity hams sitting out. They have 1 to 4 hams sitting out. They're sliced. So what the meat tastes like is very dependent on where in the ham they are when they're slicing and where they're going to take the pieces off of, as well as the skill of the slicer. So I never thought that I would be for buying pre-sliced ham, but here's the great thing. When you go buy pre-sliced ham, so they have the places there and they're slicing it by hand, but I can go pick the style of ham that I like, pre-sliced, and then I can flip through it like a record store, like you're at a vintage record store. I'm like, flipping through. I'm like, nope, not marbled enough. And then you find it and you can get exactly what you want. You want it chewier, so you get ones that have like longer grain lines in it. You want like more fat, less fat, more marbling, more little crystals. So I'm going to go ahead and say that for this style of ham that is sliced in a traditional way, sliced in a traditional direction, it is actually much better to buy it prepackaged unless you happen to be lucky and look at the ham that is on the counter and be like, oh yeah, that's what I want right now. In fact, in one of the places I went, I ate the second quality ham instead of the first quality ham because the position of cutting of the second quality ham was much higher than of the first quality ham. All right, enough of ham.
All right.
Enough of ham. I had some good food too, though. I don't know. I mean, what's to say? It's food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Had woodcock. Now, Anastasia, the woodcock that they served was a lot less messy than the one where I was accidentally spitting BBs all over you at Hicks and you almost threw up at the middle of dinner. Remember that?
Disgusting, yes.
Yeah. So we were at Hicks and they served us lightly cooked, like semi-rotten grouse and woodcock. And
Spatchcock look woodcock?
not even just like whole, like gooey and like with the BBs in it. And so you have to pick it up. And so all this stuff was like sticking to your fingers and it's a horror show. It's like American Horror Show, but in England. And Stas was like, I'm not hungry anymore. You've ruined my appetite. It's pretty much what happened, right?
So gross. Yes.
Man.
Yes. That was after a day at the Brogdale eating pears and loquats, I think.
Yeah, so your stomach was already primed. Although we had a really good time there, unlike the time McGee and I went there and they kicked us out. Like, we had a really good time. We ate some really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the presentation I gave at Barcelona was ostensibly about texture. And in the couple of days going up to it, I was actually testing the viscosity of various things. So, for those of you that have heard me talk about this ad nauseum, when you're going to lower the alcohol or sugar in a beverage or both, you have to change the body of it because it loses its body. So I use either something called polydextrose, which is it's polymerized dextrose, but it's from being mildly sweet to non-sweet, depending on which one you get. But you can add it almost 1-to-1 for sugar to replace the body, or glycerin. And I discovered that it's, in my opinion, it's not the viscosity that does the magic work, because I was testing viscosities on a viscometer, and it wasn't enough. Anyway, so that's what I was talking about over there. You want to do this tasting, or you want to do some questions? Both. Tasting, question. Tasting first? Tasting, so I get it out of the way?
Yeah, might as well.
All right. So for those of you that have ever listened to this show, whenever we go to Pennsylvania, I always talk about Lebanon bologna. Lebanon bologna, how much I love Lebanon bologna. Spelled Lebanon, the place in Pennsylvania, and Bologna, So I happen to bring some with me from Dietrich's so that, it's beef, by the way, for those of you that are keeping track. But I never really knew how it was made, and I commend to all of you the article Lebanon Bologna by S.A. Palumbo, J.L. Smith, and S.A. Ackerman from the Eastern Regional Research Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, June 22nd, 1973, in which they give you an actual recipe. So any of you guys who want to make Lebanon Bologna in a very traditional way can do it. And the main things about it are that it is very sour. and it is very firm. And the way it works is that they chop it coarse and they salt it, and they let it age in a fridge for several days salted. And the salt stops like spoilage garbage or bad odors from going on it because they ran that test, and allows like local flora to kind of incubate the meat. So that's a necessary step to get the pH to drop fast enough. So it's salted as it's as coarse chop, then ground, then smoked at about 35°C for a couple of days, right? And that's when the incubation takes place. The pH drops. So, and for some reason, like that order and then mellowing for a couple of days produces something that is acidic but not grainy. You know how most sausages, when they are this acid, go extremely grainy, which is gross.
Yeah.
Like, I hate it when someone over ferments a sausage and it gets that granular texture and you're like, blah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this one, which is about 3% salt and salt added before the pH drop, then the pH drop after it's ground and cased, makes a delicious firm. You like it?
Yeah.
It's good, right?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, what's not to like?
Tart. Now, listen, folks, there's a sweet Lebanon bologna out there where they jack it with so much sugar that you can't even recognize it anymore. And it's not nearly as tart. I'd stay away from that. I would get the original. And in grams per kilogram meat, you're looking at 20 grams of glucose, 20 grams of sucrose, 2.5 grams of black pepper, 1.25 grams of nutmeg, 1.25 grams of allspice, and then 0.62 grams of each of the following: red pepper, clove, cinnamon, ginger, mustard, and mace in a 3% salt base. Remember, the salt goes on when it's coarsely cubed. The spices are added as it's ground, stuffed, and then smoked and aged. All right, and not aged that long. You could do the whole thing inside of a week and a half. What?
John, I have a question. Dave and John, I have a question.
What's up?
Let's say you're having a dinner party with a discerning chef. You need to get silverware. What color and type of generic silverware do you get to not piss anyone off?
Silver colored.
Yeah.
What do you?
Really?
What do you mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
I
stainless
don't
steel?
know.
Like,
Stainless steel. Okay.
I mean, because
And
it's
any
not a
curve?
fancy place. You don't need real silver, right? I'm assuming you're going to get stainless.
Right.
It has to be
So that's-
heavy enough. Heavy enough.
Heavy. Okay.
Heavy.
Okay. Stainless steel heavy.
I'm
Okay.
so heavy. Anyway, so like when you say discerning, you really mean pain in the behind, right? That's what you mean by discerning.
No, Dave, I do not mean that at all.
Oh, yeah.
I do not.
Okay. Because if they were discerning, but not a pain in the butt, you wouldn't care what they thought. You would just provide something. And then they would look at it and they'd be like, oh, that sucks. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Because you could, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference between discerning and, getting all bent. You know what I'm saying? Big difference. Yeah. Yeah. Why? What were you thinking? Like, first of all, like, why don't you just tell them everyone has to eat with chopsticks? Call it a day.
No.
Do
No.
you remember when
No,
we opened Booker and Dax and we tried to open it with just chopsticks, and within
Yes.
30 minutes we realized that like there are many more people that can't use chopsticks than we thought?
Why did we do that?
Because we didn't want to wash silverware in the same way that you don't want to rent silverware or get it.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? How about this?
Oh, I'm sorry.
How about this? Since you have hopefully a couple of days, why don't you troll thrift stores and get like a good
Sure.
mismatch set, and then you can use it for other things.
I am not doing that tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm not doing that.
Hey man, you asked me what I would do. Like whenever you used to, when I got my place in Connecticut, I before Thanksgiving, when I knew I was going to get a huge thing, I would just troll thrift stores and get like high quality mismatched stuff for both plateware and serviceware.
I'm not.
And then make it a thing.
If it were my cooking or you were doing it with me, it's great. But this is not that kind of thing.
Well, let me ask you this, seeing as how I know the answer, but no one knows what we're talking about. If this is going to be something you're going to do again and again, you could either make it a recurring cost or you could pay for it once and be done.
That's what I'm doing. I'm buying the silverware, but I'm going to like a kitchen supply store, in Glendale.
Buy the fake Lagiols. Everyone seems to think they're real.
That's true.
What?
Buy the fake Lagiol knives. Yeah. everyone's like, ooh, lagioles, they're the best. And I'm like, yeah, they're fake. You know what I mean? Like, they're not real. You know what I mean? You know the ones I'm talking about? They have the little weird thumb rest on the top. Look up spell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no one's going to, and you can be like, what, they're real? What, you don't believe me? And then the chef can't say anything because you got the lagioles. You know what I mean?
Imprint on it?
I don't know whether they say lagiole or not. I don't know. I mean, like, you know. But the other thing about, like, I've said this on the air many times, but my wife was designing silverware, like, they had a bunch of samples out, and the silverware expert from ARC International, they're a big glass manufacturer, but they also did silverware, he was going through, and he picked it up. He's like, the design on this is nice, but it does not weigh enough. Nice silverware needs to have a certain weight to it, or people think it's chintzy. And I was like, ooh, snap. You know, like, unless you're camping, no one wants like a titanium, like, you know, carbon fiber shafted, like super extra light fork. They want that fork to feel like you could stab a woolly mammoth. Get away with it. To go back to mammoth tusks. Anyway, hopefully that was a decent answer, Stas.
Yeah, I think so.
Mathman writes in, Dave, do you still recommend Egan Press series handbooks as great technical books on high fiber, oil, hydrocolloids, etc., or are there newer options you would highlight more? Egan Press, by the way, is spelled E-A-G-A-N. And you know what? Like, they have probably been superseded, but they're still really short. If a chef was going to come into me and say, I want, like, just, like, a really quick, what is a hydrocolloid? You know, what can I do? What's it for? From a technical standpoint, I'd send them. Egan Press, they're also really cheap. You know, I think they're still really cheap. You used to be able to get them online for almost nothing. You could get a year's supply, get the PDFs online, and I still go back to them every once in a while. They're pretty. I mean, the best ones are probably the one on hydrocolloids, the one on emulsifiers. The wheat one's okay. They are, I think, put out by the American Association of Cereal Chemists. I don't think they've been updated. Non-nutritive sweeteners is kind of the one that's most out of date, but like most people I know aren't working with non-nutritive sweeteners anyway. The sugar one's okay, as my memory serves. I don't remember much about the fiber one. It really depends on what you're looking to do, but yeah, I still think they're okay. Oshkosh Bagosh. Oh, no. Apologies, Josh. Oshkosh Bajosh is the person who asked the question. Oshkosh Bajosh. I used to go to Oshkosh all the time.
What's there?
The fly-in. They don't just make dungarees. It's the EAA, the Experimental Aircraft Association, has their yearly fly-in there, and during the fly-in, it's the busiest airport in the world. Huh. When I was a kid, I used to go there. All right. How does this work? And it's the no thumb, not with a B, like NOTHUM.com's Protherm Continuous Fryer. And the link that Oshkosh Bajosh sent has a fryer that says that it uses less oil than regular continuous fryer. How does it work? Well, continuous frying in general is not anything that any of us normal folk are ever going to have access to. Any commercial so when something says it's kettle fried, right, what that means is that it's batch fried. So you're basically, even though the equipment's much nicer, you're cooking it the way you would cook it at home. You have a vat of oil, you're putting the thing in, you're taking it out, and you're dumping it, and then after a while, you have to keep adding more oil, or you might have to replace it, but the oil tends to degrade. In a continuous frying situation, what happens is product goes in, oil goes in, and you never change the oil. The ideal continuous frying scenario is such that the oil uptake is exactly equal to the oil degradation rate, so that the oil stays in perfect frying condition the entire time, and it just keeps going. Continuous frying. You never have to stop it to change the oil, right? Which is great. And it's all about just getting the numbers right. Now, these folks claim to use 1/3 less oil in their continuous frying scenario. So what that tells me is that they have a much more efficient heat transfer mechanism. So they don't need as much oil. They have like probably a better, better heat exchanger or something like this. They can use a smaller quantity of oil and then just add it at a faster rate. Now, if they're claiming, which I didn't see in their thing, if they're claiming that they somehow get less oil absorption, that's not really a function of the fryer. That's a function of the food product it puts in, right? So, I mean, that's fundamentally how continuous fryers work, and why they're so amazing and why it's very difficult for us to achieve. There's commercial frying at a restaurant, which is 8 billion times better than, home frying because their fryers are better. And this is like yet another leap on top of that. You know what I mean? In terms of efficiently using oil.
Yeah.
Curious, is this not that dissimilar to that? You remember those 70s lamps with the continuous oil? Those lamps that had the string that had the...
Oh, I love those things.
Right.
I own, I bought one of those things for my wife for Christmas. Yeah. So those, by the way, if you buy...
Continuous oil.
If you buy one of those, they just keep pumping the oil up the top. So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, so imagine, if you will, a lamp. And then the lamp comes down, and there's like a little pagoda shape. And then underneath the pagoda shape is a statue, usually a woman. Maybe she's naked, maybe she's not.
Italian.
Then underneath that is like almost like a basin. And then there's some fake plastic plants, right? And now, from the pagoda down to the basement the basin are a bunch of like fishing line monofilament that go down, like kind of crisscrossing going down in like a beautiful pattern. And what happens is...
Beautiful.
Beautiful. And in the bottom, in the basin, you have oil, mineral oil, and there's a pump. And when you turn the lamp on, it pumps the mineral oil up to the top, and then it drips down the string in these like pearly drips. And then when the light's on, it's magic. The oil's woo, and it goes real slow down the thing. Oh my God.
That's why you got plastic on the couch.
Yeah. Oh, geez, Louise, they're so awesome. They are better. For all of you fools who think that fiber optics is the best thing, this is so much better than the fiber optics. And you can buy them online for pretty cheap. Here's the thing. They're clogged, but they probably work. You need to completely disassemble it. You need to get all the old oil out, all of it out. And then you need to get mineral oil. And please, when you move the lamp, get the oil out before you move the lamp. And, make sure it stays clean. But once I got that thing all polished up, I had to remake a portion of it. I had to cast a piece of like the weird little fake ornamentation around it, and I had to get all new plastic plants for mine. But you can totally buy one on eBay and fix it up, and oh my God, is it worth it?
Continuous oil.
Continuous oil, baby. Because when you look at one of those things, when you're a kid, you're like, what the hell? How does it do that? They had ones. So the one that I got for my wife is the table one, but they also have the ones that you hang in the corner. You seen them?
Oh yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
I remember going to El Dorado Furniture Place and putting my finger there and trying to get all the oil and getting yelled at.
Oh yeah. No one wants you to touch that thing. Here's the other thing, people. If you live in a dusty house, the dust sticks to the strings. So you have to clean it all. You have to turn it off and clean it. Otherwise, no one wants to see like a dog hair sticking to an oil string and then the oil coming down. So like if you live in a dusty joint, just be aware it takes a wipe down every once in a while. You know what I mean? But like, oh my God, hours when you're a kid. Now, granted, we didn't have the internet or phones. You know what I mean? But when you were a kid, you're like, oh my God, someday. And then someday I did have one. Crap on you, life. I did have one. Anyway.
Your wife did.
Yeah. Well, I got to live in the house. It's one of those gifts. It's a gift for the both of us.
You played with it all day long.
I did. I sat there. You know what? It's like, honestly, before dinner, you get yourself like, I don't know, like a vermouth, flip on the oil lamp, just sit, read. Every once in a while you look up, you're like, yeah.
That's the life.
So
That's
proud
the life.
of it. So proud of it.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah. Look at this. Here I am.
I'm content.
Yeah. What else do you need? Really? You got the vermouth, you got the book, you got the easy chair, and the lamp with the oil. Boom.
That's it.
That's all you need. Especially like like a fall or a spring day, you can have the window open. You know what I mean? A little breezy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it.
That's too nice, Dave. That's too nice.
Yeah.
Better than Instagram.
Yeah. Don't deserve it. I don't deserve it anymore. That's why I don't have it anymore. Jeez. Okay. Maddie says, I've heard many times not to refrigerate bread, but rather to keep it at room temperature or freeze it. At home, I slice bread, freeze it, and then toast the slices as needed. Well, Maddie, this is also what I do. That is exactly what I do. However, at the restaurant I work and bake bread for, we store bread wrapped in the walk-in, then slice during the prep day and toast before serving. Why is the advice always not to refrigerate bread, and what is the best way to keep bread, especially in my case for restaurant service? We bake, then serve the next day. Well, Maddie, the real truth of the matter is that if you're going to toast it, it doesn't much matter. Because even bread that is like kind of staled once from being in the fridge, toasting it will re-liven it for like a little bit. But if you were to let that bread cool and then try to eat it later, I think is when it's going to be a real nightmare. The studies that I've read show that, storing in the fridge, storing at 4 degrees Celsius. The real magic number where starch retrogradation happens the fastest is at 4C. Now, if you have a lot of fat in the bread, or if it's not relying on like a cellular structure, so for instance things like pies, cookies, very short or fatty crusts like that, it's much less of an effect. But standard breads that are prone to staling will stale much faster at 4. And the old theory being that even the freeze-thaw cycle, where it has to pass through 4 degrees Celsius and then back up on the thawing, was equivalent to about a day's worth of sitting out on the counter in terms of staling. So some breads don't ever go stale, really. So like panettone, because of the high fat and whatnot, can stay out forever. And so I'm assuming it would also do well in the fridge for almost as long. Again, toasting makes it kind of ameliorates that. But for me, I tend to pull from a freezer and not do a real toast, just like kind of a light, like in the toaster or even in the APO, the Anova Precision Oven, in which case the bread comes back almost to where it was, not to toasted. And for that, I think you would not be as good storing in the fridge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I answer that question? I hope. All right. Biff Dit, following up on Jack's story, here you go, Jack, about returning the drink that you didn't like. 1, this is to Jack and Nastasia. When you returned the drink, did you confirm that you wouldn't be charged? Because that's another bag of worms, and the thing I'm worried about, and I hate, is having to ask whether I'm going to get charged or not, and all that awkwardness. Now, as the owner, I would never think of charging you for a drink that I offered to take back and replace. Not once. It wouldn't even cross my mind. And if I went to a place and they did that to me, I would burn the restaurant down. But,
Steve, what did you do to the scallops?
Oh my God. Well, I'm going to ask me again. First, you answer the question.
Oh, and,
I would never
I can't imagine. I can't imagine them charging. I would be too shocked. And if they brought the check and it was on, I would just say, "Hey, I think you made a mistake. You put this drink on that."
No, I would just pay it. I would just pay it.
Huh. Yeah, but in other words, like what Biff is saying is that it worries them so much, the idea of there being this awkward moment, the same way that anytime I'm with someone and they order orchetti, I'm like, don't order it. In case it's not right, I don't want to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, don't do it. So it's like for Biff, like the awkwardness is so that part didn't cross, and it is something we didn't discuss when we were discussing this thing. Is this idea that maybe you would be charged and then have to either suck it up and grind your gears like Nastasia would do, or have the conversation, which is what Jack would do. Thoughts?
Oof. Yeah, I don't know. I like I said, my brain can't even compute a situation where they would charge me. So that's never crossed my mind.
Yeah, and the second part of the question,
they're offering. Yeah. But the thing is, I say, they say, how do you like your drink? And Nastasia is encouraging me to say I didn't like it. Right. And then it's sort of on the bartender to say, oh, I'm so sorry. Here, let me get you something else. Right. So in that case, it's hard to imagine they would charge.
Right, because if they were going to charge you, they'd be like, suck it, jerk.
Yeah. Oh, maybe your next one will be better.
Yeah. But it's a good point, and this is why, you train people. Hold on, we're not done with Biff's question. So you train your people to look at the drinks and see whether or not they're getting drunk in a timely fashion, and if they're not, you have to decide, well, is this person just nursing their drink, or do they hate the drink, right? And that's the
right.
And so, like, but that's good service. So, it's different if you have to tell them that you don't like I don't like this. Then I guess, Biff's point is it could be more of a gray area because you don't know what their theory of operation is as a bar.
Right.
If the minute somebody got, like, I would prefer it. If the minute somebody got a drink, I'd be like, I don't like this. And then I take it away from them, so it's not like they're drinking it, right?
I think that's the thing, too, as the customer is knowing pretty much immediately that you don't like it and don't kind of mess around with it. Like, don't have half of it and then be like, oh, I really don't like this. Then I know that makes us all a lot more complicated. I think it's once you know you don't like it, commit to it, get something new.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so then Biff follows up, and then I'll tell the story. So Dave says, Dave, what's the move here? Do you ask whether you'll be comped the bad drink or just risk getting charged for a bad drink? I never ask anyone whether I'm going to get comped ever for anything.
Ever.
Not ever.
Yeah, never.
No, never.
And you never
not
expect it going to a restaurant.
Now, here's the thing. If a restaurant
your place.
offers to send you something, this has happened to friends of mine. If a restaurant offers to send you something, implying that it's comped and they don't, I hated that.
That's
The chef would like to make you X, and you're like, okay, then the Dave would like to not pay for X. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I'm saying?
That
It's
happened
like
to us once.
that. I know that's happened to a bunch
Yeah.
of people. It's happened to me where, like, they say that they want. I'm not talking about places that know you. That's different. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like
Jack,
just.
you want to say where that is?
Nope.
Is it someone that we know?
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right.
Who knows?
Who knows? But for those of you that own places, that's real bad form. To imply to someone that they're going to get something comped and then charge them for it, real bad form. Don't do it. It makes people hate you. Now, on to Nastasia's thing. Speaking of, so the kitchen at Contra sent out a scallop without asking me. All right. So I don't want to hear anyone saying, "Don't you know Nastasia hates scallops because she's told you a million times?" She's like, yes, I did not ask them to send anything out at all. I was there talking to them. So, like, they send out the scallop, and Nastasia's like, I don't like scallops. I believe you said, I don't like scallops. Then somebody else was there, was like, I don't eat scallops either. And then the other person had a problem, I think, with the garnish of the three people. So I'm disgusted.
Ariel was allergic. Ariel was allergic.
Oh, yeah. Ariel was allergic. You didn't like them. And the third person, there was something else that they did. So, like,
Kosher.
whatever. Trafing it up big time. So, like, literally at the bar, full bar, right? Full bar. I get so irritated. I reach across, like with Jersey claw hand, I reach across on the plate. I fist the entire dish off the plate and shove it in one motion in my mouth with an intensely angry look on my face. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. That freaked everyone.
I was like, no more scallop to worry about, people. Can we discuss something else other than the free thing that you're angry about? Yeah. Yeah.
How did it taste?
I mean, good. The bite was a little big. They're big scallops, so with the frying and the shiso and all of the other garniture around it, I would say it's at least a 2-bite problem in the real life.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But, I didn't want to have a conversation about that, so I made it go away as fast as humanly possible. Put it in the face hole. Yeah.
There you go.
It's the only, face hole is the only thing you control. All right. From Azoo 14, one of my favorite bars in Seattle used to have a Tom Yum Mule on the menu, which has since fallen off as the prep was too much of a pain. I asked them for the spec, and they were able to provide me with some notes, namely that the aromatics are a 312 lemongrass, Thai basil, makrut lime leaf base. Any suggestions on the quantity of vodka? I thought the Liquid Intelligence lemongrass vodka spec might be a good start. Cutting the lemongrass in half and replacing that other half with the aromatics. That should work. I mean, I might, pre-slice the Thai basil roughly. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to last. I mean, the real question on with those folks is, did they make a syrup? Because a lot of people make like a basil syrup. I'm pretty sure they probably made a syrup because infusions with basil, the basil is going to be a little bit light, and it'll be good, but it won't last that long. Tangentially, if I were to do sous vide infusion instead of nitro, would the quantities be the same? No. Rapid nitro takes a lot more aromatics than any other technique because you're extracting the high notes to the detriment of the lower notes, and so it requires a larger than normal amount. So you probably on the order of 75% of what you would use for rapid infusion, or 60% of what you'd use for rapid infusion. But I would guess they're probably making a syrup. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I would think.
Because that's if you were going to. I mean, I don't know. You didn't say what restaurant it was, right?
It's a mule. If they're using just a straight up ginger beer,
they're probably not
as their mixer.
Why would they do that though? Like, if they're making all this other stuff, I doubt they're doing that. I don't know anyone that does that.
But he says it's the aromatics in the vodka.
Well, let me see. I asked them for the spec, and they were able to provide me notes, namely that the aromatics are lemongrass, basil, and makrut lime. It doesn't actually say what the aromatics are into. They're assuming it's the vodka. Yeah. And if I was going to do it, I would make my own ginger syrup, and I would add those aromatics to the syrup because it's inherently more stable, and it's a lot cheaper than pushing it into vodka, which then you can use it for a bunch of other things. But again, I don't know specifically what they're doing.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
I just got an alert that Sammy Hagar and Guy Fieri's tequila truck got hijacked in Laredo, Texas.
Oh my God, that's so sick. Sammy Hagar, and Guy Fieri have a tequila truck that got hijacked in Texas?
And there's a load of $1 million of retail in it, yeah.
Oh,
wow.
My God. First of all, what the hell tequila do they have that's worth a truckload of it's worth $1 million? Do we talk?
They have like 40,000 bottles
in one truck. We talked about the cheese heist, right?
No.
You know about this, right?
Yeah.
Neil's Yard Dairy,
Yeah.
like someone in France ordered $370,000 or $380,000 worth of cheddar, really high end cheddar, and then just didn't pay them for it because they weren't real. They stole it. And the question I have is, how do you sell that? Like, if all of a sudden some random French person's like, I have the Montgomery cheddar, I'm like, you stole that crap. I'm going to turn you in. You know what I mean? Like, how do you push something that there's not that much of?
That's like what Amazon does to us with our Sears also.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's not as much. Yeah, but again, we're like little people. Neil's Yard. I mean, in other words, like, who's buying? Everyone was going to buy the Sears all this. Be like, I didn't know. But like, with the cheddar, I mean, everyone who's a cheese person knows that cheddar is stolen. Like, it's a lot.
You got to go across country line. You got to cross a border or something,
Yeah, and it's a lot more than personal consumption. That's beyond personal consumption cheese, no matter how much cheese you eat. And the same goes true for this tequila. But the idea that Mr. I Can't Drive 55 and Guy Fieri have a tequila together, and that $1 million?
Yeah.
$1 million of it was stolen.
No, I mean, if it was in Laredo, that's close to Mexico, right? So, wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, but what self-respecting Mexican's going to steal an American person's tequila brand and bring it back across the border?
Maybe they're upset that these two white guys are making tequila, and they were like, boom,
I don't know. Weird. That's a good story, though, Stas. Okay. Z-Banks wants to know, how much glycerin can I add to cocktails? I had a bee's knees cocktail this summer that was very viscous. It was also delicious, and now trying to recreate it. The drink had almost the viscosity of 2-to-1 honey syrups. That's quite viscous. So I figured they must have added something else like glycerin. I started with 1 teaspoon of glycerin, now double that. Okay, listen. Your recipe has about 9% glycerin. I don't add more than about 2%, so 20 grams per liter. Anytime I need more than that, I mean, maybe up to 5%, like 50, but that'd be a lot. Like 20 grams per liter is a lot, kind of better range. I would use polydextrose. So go on, Modernist Pantry sells it. You can also get it on Amazon. Polydextrose. Make a 1-to-1 simple syrup with polydextrose. And you can add as much of that as you need to make it as viscous as you like. And in fact, you can add the polydextrose
to the lemon juice or whatever, so that you're not drastically increasing the dilution by adding more simple syrup. But that's what I would do. 38 seconds. Elliot says, Dave mentioned that his wife wanted a low sugar pumpkin spice latte. My wife has the same request, so I'd love the spec if it exists, but also other suggestions welcome. So you're thinking of doing it as a tincture. I would just do it the same way that I said. I would boil the pumpkin spice mix in water, unsteep it, and then add 50% of the weight of that syrup in polydextrose, and then you'll have a very neutral pumpkin spice. I haven't made it yet because I've been busy. I've been out and this Thursday is the museum MoFads gala, so I've had my head underwater trying to get stuff done. However, that's what I would do, and I'm telling you, I know it would work. So, cooking issues.